And I will never forget, I was at the last conference I went to before COVID hit. Somebody on a panel said, and it's funny because we were sponsoring the conference. And so this was like, I'm sitting in the audience, probably having given a commercial about gen.video. And somebody goes, man, I hope that the theme of 2020 is that influencer marketing dies the death it deserves, and we can get back to basically running traditional marketing. And people applauded, and I sort of slunk down in my seat, and I was like, I don't even know how to think about this, because I know what we're doing is working, and yet somehow I've made enemies, in this room. And then COVID hit, and that, it was game over. I mean, like, it just
game over, Bill.
Yeah.
You know what it is that traditional marketers, people are scared of change.
Yeah.
Me, I'm like, bring on the change, because it's exciting.
Hi, welcome back to Generation Influence. I'm your host, Bill Hildebold, and this is a podcast that focuses on the movers and shakers in the influencer marketing and e-commerce space. Today, I am delighted to have with me Denise Vitola from Bayer. Denise, I want to turn it right over to you. Tell us about yourself and your role and your background and how you ended up where you are today.
Well, first of all, according to Bill, I'm a mover and a shaker.
It's definitively true.
So let's just start there. How did I become a mover and a shaker? Sometimes I start when I was like a little kid, because I do really believe that you have this fire in your belly. And I had a boss a very long time ago told me, I can teach you how to write press releases. I can teach you how to write a PowerPoint deck. I could give you the fundamental skills, but I can't put fire in your belly. And to have that passion and to have that grit, like, how many people are talking about grit lately? Do you have to grit? What is grit? Should I have it? Sounds kind of like crazy, but it's something that if you have it, it'll take you far fast. And I think that's the impotence to advancing and getting to your North Star. And I knew early on, playing sports when I was 8 years old, that passion was there, especially when I was trying to take out my young friends on the soccer field, because I had so much grit and I had this desire to win. So I can't say I woke up one day and I was like, well, when I was a kid, there was no influencer marketing, but I can't say I woke up and I said, I'm going to work in marketing. I thought I was going to be an FBI agent. I thought I was going to be a veterinarian. I thought I was going to be all those things. But the one thing that I did know is that whatever I was going to be, I wanted to be the best at it. I wanted to win. And my path led me here in various ways. I started in PR, and then I started into integrative marketing, and I was like, ooh, this is feeling better. Ooh, digital, this is something new. I like this. And then really self-educated, and then took a lot of classes and influencer marketing. I went into that and I started doing that. And I was like, I love this. Oh, I got to be an influencer. So then I started being an influencer, and I was like, I don't really like that, but I like the combination of me having a marketing background, PR background, and being an influencer, because now I feel like I'm at the sweetest spot you can possibly be in advocating for influencers and advocating for working with influencers inside an organization.
That's awesome. All right, we're definitely gonna come back to Denise as influencer, because I do feel that is something that completely separates you from 99% of the rest of the professionals that work in the space. And, my joke about myself, although I guess I have to modify this somewhat, is there's a reason that I'm the guy behind the camera, working with influencers, as opposed to the guy in front of the camera. And so, and even now, I would say I hide behind the gen.video logo in doing podcasting, but we're going to come back to that because I do think that is a huge differentiator. I also love the sports analogy there. It's interesting. I feel there's some sort of drive I feel like I have also, and it is true. It started with sports. It definitely started with athletics, and so it is awesome today. One of the things that I think is most exciting in all the trends that are happening in the world is young girls being encouraged to go into sports, and all the way through college now. Like, now I watch, so I graduated from Chapel Hill. I watch women's Carolina sports as much as I do the men's, and it's because they're on TV as much, and the competition is just as fierce. And that is something that just changed completely. I would assume, even not trying to age you, but even when you were a girl, that it wasn't as prevalent that, okay, you can play soccer for a couple years maybe, but then, do whatever you want to do. But I know you stuck with it, and I feel like there's so many more people sticking with it. It's like finally Title IX has like really the promises come through. And I think it's awesome because it
Yeah.
definitely levels the playing field in terms of a foundation.
Yeah. Well, if everyone could have grown up in the household under Joe Vitola, then anyone would think they can do anything. And I often talk about uh, my upbringing with my father, who didn't treat me like a girl, if you will. He would always tell me, you can do whatever you want to do. And I was wrestling with my brother. I was playing football with my brother, riding bikes. I didn't know there was a difference. I actually thought my brother and I were twins for the longest time. We're about 12, 13, 14 months apart. And we did everything together. And my father treated us very much the same. We would go out hunting together. We would play sports together, all the things. And I felt like I could do all those things. And what I love today is more girls are being told that. More girls are seeing that that's possible. More girls are seeing themselves in leadership positions. More women that are graduating from college are saying, I see people in leadership positions and I want to follow that path. That's what I want to be. I was listening to a podcast today, and it was about emulating your heroes. And it doesn't mean your hero needs to be a like Superman. It's, who do you see in life that is doing what you want to do? And then do exactly what they are doing so you can get there too.
Yep.
Now, it happened to be a Navy SEAL, former Navy SEAL, that said this, but I'm here to tell you, I listen to every Navy SEAL because I think they're the most disciplined and most purposeful people. And talk about grit and talk about fire in the belly. I don't know if you could throw me overboard, like tied hands and feet, and I wouldn't panic, but nonetheless, you can aspire to be that. And that's really the message out there, that who cares about gender? Who cares about race? Like, go out there, find your heroes and follow them.
Yep. I love that. And I love the way you brought it to, it doesn't matter gender, race, find your heroes, follow that path. That is amazing. All right. Well, so speaking about finding your heroes, you just did something relatively heroic, which is you were on a panel at AdWeek. Congratulations on that. That is not an easy thing to do, to get there. How did it happen? What did you talk about? What was the message that was being delivered?
Talk about doing things. I always say to people, do things that scare the shit out of you, because it's basically, you make the novel normal. So people ask me all the time, when you get on stage, are you nervous? Are you scared when you speak in public? Because I do it a lot. And I'm like, every time I'm about to go on stage, I get butterflies. We all do. It's natural. But what you do with those butterflies is going to be the driving factor of how your success comes out on stage. So yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking, but I had a power woman with me, Jamie Hass, who is NYC Fit Fam, awesome influencer, awesome health and wellness expert. And to be up on stage with her was definitely my pleasure and real honor. We were talking about influencer relations in the sense of creating longer tail campaigns with influencers. So think influencer ambassador network versus doing one-off engagement with influencers. There's obviously a big difference there. And Bayer and I personally see huge value in that. And Jamie is part of the Bayer ambassador network. And she was there as a proof point to say, I could tell you why it works for Bayer, but why does it work for influencers? And it was a great combination of delivering the success of how that relationship goes for both brand and for influencer.
Let's dive first into that ambassador side of things. And so, one thing I think we've all been hearing in influencer marketing that ambassadors are the way to go. Everybody, wants to do more of that, have these longer term relationships. And I think what sometimes happens though, is that message gets oversimplified. And what I mean by that is, what I see personally is that for a lot of small companies, they're doing ambassadors and they're doing it successfully.
Mhm.
Part of the reason though, is that because smaller companies, almost by definition, they're partnering more with micros and nanos, these smaller influencers who are trying to build their way in the world. And so to have these sponsorships is a really big deal. And especially for them to be able to be aligned with these smaller discovery type brands, it's completely logical. Those are completely mutually beneficial relationships. But when you think about enterprise clients like a Bayer, to really build your strategy around micros and nanos would require thousands. I mean, it's unmanageable. And so certainly what we tend to see is on the enterprise side, it's about finding bigger influencers that can actually move the needle for you. The challenge, the structural challenge, I would say, is with bigger influencers, they're a little bit more nervous about a long-term partnership. Oh, that's going to cut up my opportunity to, work with your competitors. Oh, my fans are going to feel like I'm selling out if I'm too associated with one brand. So it's actually a different dynamic, but you are very successfully squeezing through. So what is it you think you figured out? How did you think about those dynamics? What's the space you found where creating those longer term relationships is working for you?
Wow, well, great question. And that is what the presentation was all about. And I want the world to know, because that's the side of Denise that was an influencer that feels like I got to get back now to my influencer squad of folks and make sure that they're benefiting from these partnerships with organizations. And like, honestly, 7 years ago, when I was like young, I was going to say how old, but then I'll age myself. But nonetheless, very early in my career, working on TJ Maxx and Marshalls, and we were coming up with influencer ambassador networks. But guess what? They were called mommy bloggers. You guys remember mommy bloggers?
Oh yeah.
You remember Blogger? But
Yeah.
nonetheless, we created these networks, and they were hugely successful. Now it's a retailer, a little bit different. And then as I moved forward in my career, I always remembered how successful that was.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied it to future clients that I worked on. I applied it to Abbott. We had the Sisterhood of the Motherhood brand ambassador network for Similac. Before Bayer, P&G, and all of that. And then, so I got to Bayer, and I'm like, why can't we do this in OTC? I'm like, we can. And the reason why it works, Bill, is because it's a two-way relationship with the influencers. Like I said to you, we have to give as much as we get. And what we are doing for these influencers is creating a authentic conversation that marries with this kind of brands they're putting out there. So when I talk about Jamie, NYC Fit Fam, she's all about health and wellness. She's constantly talking about living a better life. She's vegan. Her kids eat healthy snacks. So for her kids to take Flintstones vitamins is not out of character. She naturally suffers with allergies. I think it works for Bayer too, because we have a suite of products. So it's not the same Midol that we're asking the influencer to constantly talk about Midol.
Yep.
We rotate our influencers, so it's not every month, it's every other month for some of the influencers. We talk about sustainability, so it's not always push the products. We talk about women's health and overarching. We have a program coming up for Mental Health Awareness Month this month, and talking about kits that we created for farmers who suffer from mental health issues. So I think it's the variety that we present to the influencers and the opportunity for them to choose. We've had influencers come back to us and say, I don't really take Midol. But that's fine. We have other products. Don't worry about that. And we welcome their feedback. And we have sat with them and said, we're about to launch this campaign. What do you think of it? And we ask for their feedback. So it's not just take this product and talk about it. It's tell authentic stories. And what is your authentic story? And hey, we could plug this into your authentic story. It's not a forced relationship. It's quite an easy one. And then further to that, we're okay with working with smaller influencers. We have a combination. We have some small, some big. We're here to help people get to their next level. We worked with one influencer who we helped them grow their audience twofold. And they became very big working with us. And maybe that person moves on and does something else after that. That's fine. We roll in new influencers. We keep our OGs. But I think because it feels very authentic, feels very natural. And I think because we're as concerned about them benefiting from the relationship as we do. So it just works so well. And your team, quite honestly, I know this is not why you asked me the question, but your team, quite honestly, has navigated this for us and always comes back with, here's how you make it better. We pivot, we try new things. We have a paid budget that goes behind this. So it's really a very thoughtful and strategic program.
Well, I love that. And thank you for the compliment. I'm in no way involved with the Bayer team. And so I can take 100% zero credit for that. But it's very much appreciated. And I will tell you that the team absolutely loves working with you. And so, and actually the object lesson out of that is ambassadors is not the direction that influencer marketing is going. It's
right.
It's where it started. And it's the hard work that you put in that, and again, it's like anything in life is what I heard you to say, which by the way wasn't even where I understood the answer was going to go, that you get out what you put in. And if you put into these relationships and you treat them like relationships, and it's tough, right? Because influencer in a way is replacing or participating with general media. And, you don't think of yourself as having a dialogue or relationship with the banner ad that you run on a website. And so this idea that it is very much a relationship in all of those nuanced ways, I think it's hard to get there. I think brands have the best intention, but it's hard to get there. And so again, to me, this is a great message for any marketer. And I think it comes from the empathy that you are able to bring to the table because you are an influencer yourself. And so anyway, I think, again, a life lesson, you get out what you put in. And that's how you've been successful with ambassadors, is really a great message for people to take away. All right. And so let's follow that up with another thing, because you have this unbelievably thoughtful and disciplined framework for success that you put on your programs. It's the other thing I've learned from my Bayer team is, okay, we've got to think through this. We've got to think through each metric. We've got to think through how it fits into Denise's framework for success. So, and what's incredible to me about that is, to me, there is virtually no harder industry than pharmaceuticals to think that you're going to see like this material sales impact from running an influencer campaign for a few reasons, which I hope we'll have time to chat about. Yet that has not daunted you in the least in saying there's going to be a framework. And oh, by the way, we're going to talk about sales impact. And so we're not going to hide from that because, that it may not look as good as we want. And so can you just tell the audience about your framework for success and where are those key points out of the thousands of metrics you could pull out that are the ones that to you define success in an influencer campaign?
And it's interesting because I spent 90% of my career working on the agency side. And then I went to Bayer. So I was on the side where I'm developing processes, I'm developing proprietary tools, I'm working on all that stuff and delivering success for clients. So I think having that background enables me to approach things in a different way. And when I first started at Bayer, I was a consultant, and the president of consumer health had said to me, like I said, what do you need me to do? What are my jobs to be done? And in that conversation, he said to me, we want to treat these products like they're CPG. And he may have just said that, but to me, that was a major takeaway.
It is.
It is, right? Because it literally unlocked everything for me. Because I'm like, I'm not going to think about these are regulated products. I'm going to think about it as it's just a consumer packaged good. And who is the consumer I'm trying to reach? Where are the touch points I can reach this consumer? and what are the effective messages I can reach them with. And that helped me create this framework of success and not put any like, well, we're OTC, so these benchmarks apply. Your team was so shocked because I literally was saying to them, oh, well, what's the benchmarks for an engagement rate? Well, for OTC, I said, who gives a shit about OTC? I said, it doesn't matter. CPG, what are the engagement rates? Okay, that's what I want them to be. And everyone's like, oh okay, right? Because they think I'm crazy. But I'm like, if we do the three things, if we're talking to the consumer where they're at, if we're talking to them in the way that they want to be talked to, and we have the right partners, then we are going to get those engagement rates and successfully roll out these programs. And I always say, like, engagement rate is really, to me, the king, right? Because engagement rate means the content means something to somebody. It really, like, you didn't just scroll over it. I scroll over tons of things on social media, but I'm doing something with it, then I actually cared about it, right? So engagement rate really means first to me. And then, of course, we want to align to all of the brand marketing metrics, right? So I always say, and not all companies can do this, but if you can put paid behind your programs, then you can get a Nielsen rating, you can MTA tag this, you can get all of those things that you are getting when you're measuring a display ad, or any other kind of OLV or something like that. So then you can report back and say, hey, this influencer program did as well or better than those items that you had. So maybe we want to rethink how we're using some of this influencer content. That's another conversation for another day. But also making sure that we are clicking through to retail. Because again, like, the click-through rate on some of the products that we put out there are hugely successful, because it's the way we package the stories. We're enticing people to look further into what we are doing. So I think that it's pushing the needle, because again, it's that grit and that fire in the belly. Don't settle for less. Reach for the moon and land on the stars. Like, set yourself up to challenge yourself, to change yourself, to be the best possible person you can be. And if you wake up, I don't know about you, Bill, but I don't get out of bed in the morning, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be an average person today. No, I get up and I'm like, season today, I'm going to kick ass and I'm going to take names. Like, no, I don't wake up to say, okay, I just want to be average. No. And no one else should. You will be average if you set yourself up to be average.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So you actually did bring it back to some themes we've talked about, but there is another theme that you mentioned early on. I don't know if you appreciate that you just riffed on this. You said emulate your heroes. And again, I don't even know if the audience will appreciate this, but when you say you came in, to Bayer, it's a regulated company. It just is. And you say, I'm not going to be OTC or pharma. I'm going to be CPG. That is, again, not that those are better companies or brands, but that I am going to, that's what I want to be. That's what I'm going to emulate. I am going to move us from here to here. And again, I was just for the audience, and this is maybe a little bit too much inside baseball, but again, we've worked across a number of pharmaceutical type companies. And 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, it was always the same. The conversations would be like, yes, we can turn off comments. We can moderate all the comments. We can run all the content through all the legal, things. That's how we would pitch, is how we would fit within the confines of the industry. And, and again, I'd say, you personally and the people you've surrounded yourself with, Bayer, have just separated yourself from the pack over the last couple of 3 years, because it's like, yeah, we'll figure all of that out. We're not going to break laws, obviously, but we are not going to be constrained by any of that. That is just a functional thing that has to happen over here. And it is not going to diminish us or our goals or our results or even our timelines in the least. And that is, again, I don't even work on the account anymore, extraordinary to me, that what you've been able to do. And I didn't actually understand how you did it, but you just answered the question, which I think is applicable to anybody, right? Like, anybody in almost any industry can look around and say, I want to be more like that, right, and could apply that same logic and say, this is where I want to take us. And I love that. I want to go up even one more level, and I want to talk about where the industry is kind of going generally. And so you come out of PR, and I feel like for the first many years of influencer marketing, it really was a discipline, very logically, that was kind of dominated and managed by PR because it had this this feel of communicating with the public, et cetera. Now it's become so big. It has become so big that literally like the media firms also feel that influencers should be, they feel it's a media fund, and it's generating material awareness. And so the media agencies, who control the big bucks, have said like, no, we need a place at this table as well. And then of course you've got influencer marketing companies, which, we could put, gen.video into that category. So all of a sudden you're like, it's a huge market, but everyone wants a seat at the table. So as you head up sort of integrated marketing, as you head up like these cross-functional areas, look, you haven't shied away. Like you may have started in PR, but like you said, like you've made paid a part of it. You leveled up influencer marketing by saying it needs to be equal to paid. And actually, I remember when I first heard that you guys were doing this, I was like, we're not paid. Like this is different. It should be thought of differently. And you actually raised it up to say, no, it can and will be thought of, put through the same test, the same rigor, because that's how it grows up. So what's next? I mean, you're seeing around these corners clearly. So tell me, what's next? How does this play out between PR, between media? Is it truly just a pan-functional capability? Does it end up residing somewhere else? Where does it end up residing? How does it get managed? How does everyone have a seat at the table? Where does it go?
It is a land grab. And as we get further into creators, so video killed the influencer, literally. So the creator is the new shiny toy, right?
Yep.
So it's like we used to call them bloggers, we used to call them vloggers, we called them influencers, and now they're creators. And everyone's like, oh, it's something different. It's like, okay, no, they're not. We are just advancing, becoming more sophisticated.
Yep.
And now it's an advertising tool. Now it's a paid opportunity, and it's going to get even bigger. I say this all the time. 5 years from now, it is taking things over. It is changing the landscape. So if I could do one thing, just one thing all day, every day, I would only do influencer. I would dig down deep. I would make sure that I would probably be on the agency side, and I'd make sure all clients understand this value, that you're shopping it around through the entire organizations of your clients. Now, issue is, and problem is, does that client have the right infrastructure to connect all of the things? So one of the things that I sit at my company and I squawk on a squawk box about all the time is this influencer content, this creator content, whatever you want to call it, are assets that you can use throughout the entire consumer journey. So we can take all of this content and add it to our PDP pages. We could take this content and use it in our paid rotations when we're buying on social media. We can blacklist, we can dark post. All of the things can happen with this content if you negotiate the rights up front.
Yeah,
now,
up front.
Up front, that's what you need to do. You can't say, oh, this content did so well, let me go back and now pay the influencer. It's like, just pay them now so that we can use the content the way we now. And they should be paid because they are providing an extra layer of service. Yep. I've gone to influencers and not had them promote our products on their own channels. We just take the content and we use it to fill our social feeds or use it on e-com, wherever we're going to. But this is what is naturally happening. Now, people like you and me, and maybe some people that are listening here, had seen it coming. But marketers who are focusing on the marketing their products heads down need people like you and me, these influencer experts, to say, hey guys, this tidal wave is upon us.
Yep.
And we need to do something about it. So it's going to take a minute to organize it within the walls of a company, because I see in the future is we need to build influencer teams within organizations, and then so that the influencer companies can be successful partnering with us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great answer. It's interesting because I'm old enough that I saw so many of the sort of mini pre-waves. There was Mavens, then there was UGC, then there was word of mouth, and then, and every 2 or 3 years, it kind of shifted, and it shifted in this fundamental way. And then, in the 2010s, right, suddenly there was this thing, influencer. And I think a lot of people actually were like, oh, I hope this is a trend that's going to go away again. And I'm not saying I was the first to the party by any stretch, but at some point I realized, no, this is actually a generational trend. And I will never forget, I was at the last conference I went to before COVID hit. Somebody on a panel said, it is funny because we were sponsoring the conference. And so this was like, I'm sitting in the audience, probably having given a commercial about gen.video. And somebody goes, man, I hope that the theme of 2020 is that influencer marketing dies the death it deserves, and we can get back to basically running traditional marketing. And people applauded, and I sort of slunk down in my seat. And I was like, I don't even know how to think about this, because I know what we're doing is working. And yet somehow I've made enemies, in this room. And then COVID hit, and that, it was game over. I mean, like, it just
game over, Bill.
Yeah.
You know what it is that traditional marketers, people are scared of change.
Yeah.
Me, I'm like, bring on the change, because it's exciting. But other people see it as scary, because it's like, oh, well, am I relinquishing control? Does this mean that I'm not going to be able to do things the way I used to do them, which made me feel comfortable?
Yeah.
What is this thing? Because I'm not can I send influencers a brief? Can I sit with them in studio? How much can I control what they're doing? So everyone is like a little nervous because it doesn't really fit what I've been trained to do. But it's like, loosen up, folks. Let's ride the wave.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. It's very exciting. And
it is very exciting.
It's not going away. It's going to get even more serious. Mark my words. This is staying power.
Yeah.
A lot of staying power.
I love that. And I love, by the way, the discipline and the rigor around repurposing the content. So that definitely a theme we have had for a long time, because it's actually kind of almost where we started. And so hearing it articulated back is so amazing. But you own it's getting bigger. That is pure Denise. And I love that. And I believe it, but I love that you're out there and that and can see it. I do want to come back to the fact that you are yourself an influencer in the fitness space. I find it to be so brave. And so I have 2 questions for you. Is it brave? Do you see yourself as brave like I do? And if not, how do you see it? And what's the biggest lesson you've learned from being an influencer that marketers need? Because you're clearly bringing empathy for them to the role. And so I want to know, like, where that, what was the manifestation of that? What lessons have you learned as an influencer?
It was just a fun thing to do. I left the integrated marketing world and started my own consultancy, which of course included influencer marketing. And I'd say 80% of the work that I did was digital and creative based. I hardly did any PR. And I said, I found myself with time. So I started a wellness division, went out and educated myself on nutrition and lifestyle coaching and all of those things. And I always had the background in group fitness and instructing and stuff like that. I'm also a spin instructor. So I wanted to elevate that. And like I said, I had a little bit more time and I started to do that. And it really took off. And it was at the time when Women's Health magazine was searching for action heroes. There were women's health action heroes. And there was a group of influencers, and I was one of them, the OG squad. And I did that for 2 years, and that really did help. And as I was doing that, I said, I'm really going to dig deep into this influencer stuff. And I loved it. And I don't necessarily see it as brave, but thank you for that. I see it as inspiring people. And that's what I do when I get on my spin bike. I'm there to inspire you. I want you to find whatever you're chasing and get it and be your best possible version of yourself. And that's why I go out there and say things like, look, January, I went to put on a pair of jeans and I embarrassingly didn't fit in them, where I sent my husband out to go get a new pair. I got on a scale and I was 37 pounds higher than my weight that I normally carry.
Mm-hmm.
I did something about it, and I was very transparent on social media. Like, I'm not a fraud. I have the same problems that you all do. So I need to do something about it. Happy today, thank God, I'm down 30.5 pounds of that 37. But I share that journey with people because we all go through it. I don't care if you're an actress or whatever, you're going to find yourself meeting challenges. It's how you overcome those challenges that really say what kind of person defines you. So I find it as inspirational. And I'll say the key thing that I can bring back to marketing is it's such hard work. And it is a full-time job. Like, I shot video in the gym this morning of me working out, and I wanted to create a reel and I want to put it on social media. And here it is in the afternoon, and I've yet to do it. I have things going on. So it's a full-time job.
Yep.
And if you are an influencer, you need to be posting daily and telling those stories daily. And I just don't have the time to do that as much as I'd like to. And I just said, it's a lot of work, and I will still be there and I will be active, but it's not going to be my full-time job because I love the marketing side of things and I love what I do. Maybe one day when I'm not doing this anymore, I will do more of that. But for right now, I just try to be as active as I can be, and that fills my cup, and hopefully people that follow me, it fills their cup too.
Yep. Oh, it's amazing. Well, it is brave, for sure. There's no doubt in my mind. Well, this has been amazing. There is no doubt that the listeners got a special treat today and learned a bunch of valuable lessons. So, Denise, thank you so much for being on the show. Congrats again on the AdWeek panel, and all success moving forward.
Thank you so much. It was so great being here. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. All right. Until next time, everyone. Thanks and be well. Hi, welcome. Hey, thanks for tuning in. New episodes of Generation Influence drop every Wednesday, so be sure to subscribe to listen on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Next week's guest is Laura Gustafson from Elanco, a leading animal health company. You don't want to miss Laura. She's a CPG e-commerce pioneer. Hope to see you there.